And we're live. Welcome, everybody. This is the Reality Czars podcast, and I'm your only host tonight, Nate. Tony's at work, and I'm terrible at introductions. I'm fucking honored to have Juan from the One-on-One podcast joining us tonight. Juan, thank you so much for being here, brother. You want to tell our guests a little bit? You want to tell my audience? I haven't even been drinking. I have no fucking excuse. I'm not stoned. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with me. Anyways.
It's all good, bro. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
Hold on, give me 1 second. My bad. I adjusted my audio there for a second. Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm glad to be here. I want to talk some Bigfoot with you, dude.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude.
So my show, the One-on-One podcast, I talk about a bunch of different things. I got a few different shows. The One-on-One podcast being the main one. Talk about the occult, conspiracies, religion, esoteric subjects, anything that I find interesting, pretty much. That's why I started it, and that's what I do. And then I have the Illuminati Confirmed with Mark from My Family Thinks I'm Crazy and Chris from Menta Podcast. I have the Occult Book Club with Paranoid American. We talk about just obscure literature, books, weird grimoires and stuff like that, which is pretty fun. And then I have I do a lot of stuff with Tom Thompson from the Strange Brew podcast. We have a series called Strange Ones, and I'm on there a lot talking about a lot of dark humor and comedy and stuff like that. You can find me anywhere on social media at the One-on-One podcast, any podcast platform. You know how it is, dude.
Hell yeah. The Strange Brew guys, I just started talking to them. I think we're going to record pretty soon. They seem cool.
Yeah, I've been podcasting with Thomas for over 2 years now. He was the first guy to podcast with me when I first started podcasting. So, yeah, I've been homies with him for a little bit now.
I'm liking the fucking series you're doing on Florida.
Yeah, the next addition to that is going to be on the Interverse podcast with Chance Garton on the 13th of July. We're going to continue the part 2, get into Jekyll Island, get into maybe the Florida Keys a little bit. And I've just been digging away at I like learning about the indigenous history and their beliefs, you know what I mean? Like what they believe in. So the ant people and all that stuff.
They fucking keep that pretty close to the chest, don't they? Like the native folks?
From what I can find online, dude. You know what I mean? Like you have a bunch of different beliefs because it's a bunch of different tribes. So it's whatever I can really find online, you know, whatever Wikipedia says or whatever the forums say or whatever, you know, wherever I find the information. But yeah, you're right. Some of the stuff they do keep pretty close to their chest, how you said.
Juan, what flavor of bean are you, brother?
What the fuck does that mean?
I'm a Mexican. What flavor are you?
I'm Puerto Rican, dude. We're kind of like, cool. I call Puerto Ricans the beaners of the Caribbean. So it's like, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So,
I like it.
Puerto Rican, dude. I was born there, and then I came over to Florida when I was 7 or 8.
Fucking A, man. All right. Where do we want to get started? I know we were going to talk about Tartaria and some Tartarian myths and some shit, but like, I don't know. We can go wherever.
So what was the whole thing you were talking about defending it? Like I like Tartaria. It's a cool concept. It's a cool idea. There was some things that, because I'm a skeptic too, bro. The whole thing with conspiracies is that some individuals don't know where to draw a line. You know what I mean? So they're either too far off the deep end or too close over. I like to, when somebody says some crazy stuff, I want to hear the source. You know what I mean? Like today, my buddy said that, I probably shouldn't repeat it, but anyway, I'm going to say that Jesus Christ was a pedophile. And I was like, whoa, dude, why would you say that? He's like, well, I heard somebody say that his wife was like 13. I'm like, dude, you can't just say something like that and not quote your source. You know what I mean? Like, because we were talking about how in Roman times, like it was normal for them to have like boy toys. You know what I mean? Like this is history. This is not a conspiracy. Like there was boy toys in the Roman times, and that's what the conspiracy is nowadays, that the elites do the same thing. If it was happening in the Roman times, you know, they say that the Roman Empire never died, so it's probably happening now, because we know there's a lot of psyops, right? Like what we talking about, either is it flat or is it round? Who gives a shit if it's flat or round? You know what I mean? Like, who cares? Is it going to change my life? Probably not. You got people who go, well, if there's land beyond, Well, you gonna go settle that land, dude? You gonna go and hop in a boat and go over to the land beyond? You know what I mean? Like, are you gonna go? Probably not. So it doesn't matter if it is or not. It's just another thing to divide and conquer and take up mental bandwidth, which we know they feed off of. I 100% believe. And you know, as my show grows, I am, and more people are actually listening. I gotta make sure I don't say such ridiculous shit, because I like to talk about the reptilians a lot, and I have like these jokes because I'm a sarcastic guy, bro. I'm here to have fun, you know what I mean? I'm here to talk about interesting things and make a joke, you know, have fun while doing. Don't take yourself too seriously is the number one rule. And I've been saying stuff about the reptilians and stuff, and people have been asking me questions like if I'm still like some reptilian expert. Like, so what's up with the reptilians? I was like, what's up with them? He goes, are they actually lizard people? I go, maybe, you know, but I like to talk about it in a symbolic term, you know what I mean? Like in a metaphorical sense of the word. If they're actual reptiles, I do believe that there at some point was or is a reptilian race. I mean, they've even hinted they were talking about an intelligent race of dinosaur, if you want to believe in dinosaurs, that went underground, that developed and were able to go underground. You know what I mean?
Who did that, man? That's Doctor Who, that TV show. They talked about dinosaurs that went underground that were smart and came back up. They always put that shit out in the media, so it's probably true.
Well, that's the thing. So I tell people that pay attention to the movies, right? Because it's the symbols. To the uninitiated, certain symbols mean nothing, right? And I'm getting into like secret society territory, which, dude, think about it. There are and have been secret societies in this realm, in this reality. How crazy is that concept, a secret society? Like, what? Yeah, we know secrets that you don't know. That's why we're secrets. You know what I mean? How is that okay? Like, that there is occult knowledge that's hidden from certain groups of people. Like, that's a thing. You know what I mean? Like, that's an actual thing. So these symbols to the uninitiated mean nothing. You know, they're just symbols. Oh, that's a plus sign or whatever. But for the initiated,
I've been watching William Cooper's The Babylon Mystery School. I've been like watching that series. It's like a 40-hour fucking series. Dude, it's been kicking my ass. It's awesome though. And
what is it showing you?
It tells you the Babylon Mystery School. So he's like how the Freemasons got started and the Illuminati, and basically he goes through their religion, their signs, their symbols, like everything. He goes way back. It like traces it back to Babylon and Egypt and Osiris, and like it's fucking dope, dude. It's fucking dope. William Cooper was the man.
Yeah. So to the uninitiated, symbols mean nothing. For the initiated, it's an entire different language. And that's what people don't understand. It's like, well, I've had people tell me, well, the math means nothing. You know, it's just numbers and reality isn't all number. I go, yeah, just because you don't know what it means not. Because in school, do they teach us math, right? But they don't teach you what it means. They don't teach you why you're trying to solve for X or whatever. So my whole thing is, we're still using things from the ancients. So Pythagoras, for example, the Pythagorean theorem, where there is this motive to want to make things from a 2D into a 3D. So René Descartes, I think, therefore I am, and I always talk about this, the Cartesian coordinate system, which is essential to everything. I mean, it's essential to cartography, analytical geometry, whatever, you name it. The financial system, the graphs in the stock market, they're all based on that coordinate system, the Cartesian coordinate system. This didn't come to him while he was walking down or deep in his studies, looking at his books and going, oh, wow, yeah, makes a lot of X and Y, okay. No, it came to him in a series of dreams, okay? And when he woke up, he's like, whoa, I made the greatest discovery of all time. Now, the reason that he made that was because they were obsessed with turning their ideas into platonic solids. So turning their 2D thing, unintelligible, in the ether. That's what Plato's forms is. There is a higher dimension of reflection, a more divine reflection of the world that we're in now. They wanted to turn their ideas into solids for whatever reason. I don't know, because it's a secret society. So, you know what I mean? It's occulted knowledge for a reason. But
it almost sounds like alchemy in a way.
Yes, where you have the Philosopher's Stone, right, where it turns everything into gold. The whole thing. I think there's two sides to that. I think it's symbolic and literal, because if you really think about it, if you're able to break everything down, you're able to make whatever it is that you want to do. I mean, that's what the pharmaceutical companies do. That's what chemists do. That's what all these people do. They mix things. And if you're able to make the right mixture at the right amount of time, you know what I mean? It's able to happen. So absolutely, do I believe that you're able to turn lead into gold? Probably. I'm sure there's a way to do it if you really were to dig in some way or another. But the Philosopher's Stone, I like the idea that we are the Philosopher's Stone. So the reason I say that is because we intake ideas, something that's inanimate, right? We're talking right now. Yeah. We're taking in ideas, and what we're outputting. So what we're making art, we're making podcasts, we're making videos. That's the gold, because that's what you're outputting from. Again, you take one thing in, you take another thing out. The human being is the only person, the only entity or whatever organism that's able to do such a thing, right? Where we're able to input ideas, a bunch of random words, and make poetry, make gold, make music, make entertainment. That's the gold right there. And then, you know what I mean? You get paid from that or whatever it is, however you do it. I think that's the interpretation of the Philosopher's Stone. Now, the practical, that's the symbolic side, like the spiritual side. Do I think that there is an actual physical way to do it in a lab? Probably. Yeah, absolutely. Now, the problem with that is that I don't know if you've read all the grimoires of like the Renaissance era, where they're like super weird, like they'll be there and all of a sudden here comes like this kid, and then they put the kid in the oven, and then you see him like eating the kid. It's like, what? So
I did read about how to make a homunculus, and you guys were talking about that. That's pretty fucking great.
So there's different versions of the homunculus. So you have the right hand path and the left hand path, right? And I get them mixed up. Anyways, one path likes to jizz on everything, and it's all about the seed, and that's what Jeffrey Epstein was about. He wanted to have like 38 kids or something like that.
Nobody talked about that. Yeah, his ranch out in fucking New Mexico. That's some interesting shit, dude.
Some Westworld shit right there, bro. Yeah, exactly. Nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about I was doing a podcast with my boy Thomas. He's going off on Roe v. Wade. I was like, who gives a shit, bro? Like, who cares about this shit?
The earth is flat, Roe v. Wade.
More distractions. You know what I mean? Like, more distractions. I go, let's focus on the fact that we've caught the government committing false flags. Like, that's a thing, bro. That's not a conspiracy. That's an actual thing. They've the Bay of Pigs and you name it, whatever other false flag that they've done. Which one?
Uvalde.
Where's that?
It won't happen in Texas. The school shooting in Texas.
That's the most recent one?
Yeah, I'm just talking shit. I don't know if it's a false flag, but I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, no, well, they demolished the areas, dude. They demolished the schools.
Yeah, they're getting rid of it, dude. Best way to hide evidence right there, dude.
So my whole thing is they don't like conspiracies, right? The lizards or the government or whoever, they don't like conspiracies. But then they do things that fuel the conspiracies. Okay, yeah. They fuel the conspiracy. So here you have Biden talking. It's like, whoa, there's going to be a new world order. Bro, for years they've been talking about a new world order. And then who wrote that speech? Who wrote that speech for you, bro? Like, it's like, let's troll these people. Let's put in, like, what do you want them to say? Well, I don't know, say New World Order. You really want to put it in there? He's going to probably read it. He's going to read it. So they put in the New World Order. The guy's in the teleprompter. And he's like, oh, shit, he read it. We did it. It's like Impractical Jokers in the background. Like, oh, shit. It's like, come on, dude. They put these things in there.
My favorite one is where I don't know if it was Bill Gates or not, but one of them, they were talking about putting that bioluminescence into your vaccine, and they called it luciferase. And the fucking patent number was 0.666 or something like that. And, every fucking truther lost their goddamn mind. They did that shit on purpose.
That's what I'm saying. I looked into exactly what you're talking about. The chemical reaction, the chemical that lights up like a light bug's ass, essentially. Yeah. the chemical is called luciferase. Like it's
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying. And I had looked up that exactly what you're talking about. I think the conspiracy was that they were actually going to put it into the vaccine or whatever it was, but the actual name of the chemical is that. It's not, because Lucifer means illuminator or whatever, like, illuminated one. But yeah, that was a thing. And I remember looking that one up because, like I said, if I'm going to say some ridiculous shit, I want to back it up with
Yeah, I've been
like,
getting better about that.
evidence.
Because exactly what you said is like it used to be just me and my buddy talking shit, and we had like 20 people that listened to us, and now we actually have like fucking people for some reason that listen to things that come out of my mouth, and so I have to be more careful about the shit that I let out of my mouth. Like,
I'm a researcher, so I need to be able to quote sources and know where they came from, because that's the whole thing. That's why I have the rabbit hole master title, because I'll go down a rabbit hole and then I'll bring something up to somebody and they're like, no, that's bullshit. They look it up and it's true. I'm like, dude, I was just there. I was just looking at that information. You're gonna tell me it's bullshit? Like, I just saw it with my own two eyes. Because some of the stuff you can interpret it any number of ways. You know what I mean? But the problem with history too, it's his story, so it's to the victor the spoils. So we're not really ever gonna know what went down somewhere, in the 1600s or whatever it was. You know what I mean?
yeah, dude, that was a sad fucking realization for me, dude, because I was such a fucking history nerd. I used to fucking study history like crazy. I thought it was the funnest thing in the world. And then just realizing how they fucking manipulate like the present, like how January 6th is now going to, like, when your kids are in school, when my kids are in school, hopefully they won't be in public school, but you know what I mean? They're going to fucking teach them this was almost the end of democracy. This was the huge, you know what I mean? And that's going to be in the history books. And so like people 100 years from now are going to be talking about the grand thing that happened. It's going to be like the pooch, like Hitler's push. You know what I mean? It's going to be this fucking, and
what's Hitler's pooch? What is that?
That's when it was a big bar fight where they tried to do like a coup.
Really?
Uh-huh.
But like in Germany?
In Germany, yeah. And I'm pretty sure he got stopped, and that's when they threw his ass in jail. But Hitler's putsch was a failed coup where he tried to take over the government.
Oh, the first time before he.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting, dude. Maybe he was like some MK Ultra or something, dude.
Oh, dude, I totally think he was connected. I mean, he was fucking banker, fucking financed and shit. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, fuck yeah, he was, dude.
And then, like the war, though.
Yeah. So, okay, I need to be careful the shit that's coming out of my mouth. I've heard these things. I gotta find the fucking. But yeah. But supposedly he was fucking very connected, and I like to think he was a Rothschild. I don't know if that's true.
Maybe I shouldn't ask you the technical questions.
Yeah, you can, but we'll have to look it up later.
Yeah, no. So, but anyway, point being that the government is shady. The lizards are shady. I like to call them the reptilian overlords. And as of recently, I've been getting people like, "Oh, what's up with the lizard?" I'm like, dude. I was like, they're the archons. Oh, are they real? They're metaphorical. I mean, if they, I do think, like I said earlier, because have you heard of Jared Murphy? Because he blew my mind recently, and I've been on this
Jared
trip.
Murphy, no, I heard of Jack Murphy.
And Jared Murphy.
No, it's Jared Murphy.
It's not aliens. Worse, it's us. He wrote a book, and I did an episode with him, episode 95 of the Juan podcast. Check it out. The idea that the Brazilian rainforest was like an out of control botanical garden, and they had the black aether or the black dirt, right? It's a bioengineered soil where it's bioengineered to like communicate with whatever. It's like a crazy thing, because I do think that the ancients were trying to construct, like, you know how when you build a custom PC or something. I don't know if you've ever built a PC, but if you're a PC nerd, when you build a PC, you have the board and you have the graphics card and all that. I think that's what all these ancient architecture and all these ancient pyramids and megalithic structures, I think that's what that was. There were real life computers. And I think that's what they were doing. Like, there was just like the pharaoh was like, man, I want to connect myself to the astral realm or some shit. So they would build these structures, and when you put them in a certain way, a certain time of year, at a certain time, things happen. That's what talismanic magic is all about. That's what the pagans are all about. They were about constructing and understanding. So I've heard it put two different ways. I've heard that they were trying to construct what they were seeing in the stars, which makes sense. You know, they align it based on all the constellations and all that stuff. And I've also heard it put that, what was the other way that, shit, I'm drawing a blank now. Anyways, they were trying to, so the pagans, right, they believe that if you, the macrocosm and microcosm, it's the same concept. If you're able to build a little solar system in one spot, you're able to understand it in a grander scale, the actual solar system. Same thing with the theosophical people, right? Where they believe if you understand the microcosm yourself within, right, you're a small universe, you're able to understand the mysteries of the universe. That's what they're all about. And pagans are all about the same thing. So these people back then, they were building these crazy circuit boards. If you look at the pyramids, the way that they're laid out, and Pumapunku or wherever, Mesoamerica, if you look at these cities, they look like circuit boards. The Nazca lines, they look like lines on a circuit board. So I think they were building just huge circuit boards, and they were trying to either communicate with other entities outside the fabric of space and time, or they were, dude, I believe that they were able to teleport from Stargate, the show. You know, the ziggurat of Ur over in Iraq. That's why they supposedly invaded. The weapons of mass destruction could have been some sort of advanced ancient technology. Saddam Hussein believed he was the reincarnation of Nebuchadnezzar. You know what I mean? So he was trying to collect all these artifacts. What was Hitler doing? Collecting all these artifacts. Supposedly he had the Spear of Destiny and the Holy Grail. The Nazis were looking for the Holy Grail for the longest time, dude. You know what I mean? There were occultists. That's why when people they tell me, "Oh, well, I've looked into all that and I've never come across any occult aspect of the story," I go, "Dude, you're full of shit, man. You're full of it," because it goes back to the Knights Templars, dude. It goes back to these people talking to a Baphomet type entity where they're like, "Yo, tell us the answers to everything." John Dee. What was John Dee about, dog? What was he doing? He's like, "Yo, I've already read all these books. I want to talk to angels, and I want to learn the secrets of Enoch and the language of the angels in order to be able to manifest reality." Like, that's what he was all about. And what did he do? He was, Edward Kelly was there. Oh, the angels want us to fuck our own wives. Whoa. What, you want us to swap wives? Absolutely. They even drew up a contract. I'm talking about one of the most influential people of history. You know, I mean, John Dee has contributed.
You think their wives had any say in that at all? They were like,
they were against it, bro.
Yeah. It's like, you're going to give me to who?
Yeah, they were so against it. I mean, this is all documented, bro. Like, you can look this up. That's why I say when I'm reading these books, I don't like to.
The angels told me we have to do this.
I'm serious, dude.
Oh,
100%. Yeah, it's fucked up. So the whole thing with me is when I'm reading these books, when you read a certain book on a certain topic, you're going to see if it's biased or not. So it's going to sway a certain way. If there's a Freemason writing about Freemasonry, he's not going to say everything. You know what I mean? He's not going to say all this stuff. So ancient history, dude, like, for example, when the church was coming about, all these apologists for the church and whatever, the guys who hated the Gnostics, we know all about the Gnostics only from the writings from the guys that hated them. It's like, wait, how is that okay? Like, oh, they were doing sex magic and worshiping demons. Well, who are you? Oh, I'm one of the forefathers and one of the founding fathers of the church. Well, that's kind of, you know what I mean? Like, isn't that what is it? Interest, the conflict of
interest.
Right? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, how is that okay? You know what I mean? And we base a lot of our beliefs the church was arguing about which bread to use for the Eucharist. There was hundreds of schisms. They literally went to war because they didn't want to use a certain type of bread for the Eucharist.
Yeah, that shit's wild, dude. I had heard this story actually about the. God damn it! What are they? They're not Catholics, but they're basically Catholics. They have patriarchs instead of Catholics. You know what I'm talking about?
I mean, there's hundreds of
Orthodox. Yeah, the Russian Orthodox Church. So this was like in the 1700s, something like that. They had changed. They used to do this, and then they changed it to that. So it went from some dumb shit like that, and they did one other thing, and they said, anybody that doesn't do that is a heretic and you'll be executed. And they're like,
Yep.
wait, what? We've been doing it like this for 300 years. They're like, no, it's this way now. And then literally they were killing motherfuckers and like chopping hands off and shit. And that's where you get the old timers. That's what they call them. It's something like that. There's like a group of like old school Orthodox guys that actually they went to South America first and it was too hot. And then they actually came up to Oregon and there's a whole group of them here. I'm out here in Oregon. And then a lot of them went up to Alaska and they still hold by like the ancient old school Orthodox stuff. And one of them's my homie, man. He's a cool old dude.
And so that's Catholicism, you said?
It's Orthodox.
I don't know the difference.
They broke up. It used to be one church, and then they broke off. The Orthodox decided this, and then these guys decided that. But
yeah, that's the whole thing, and that's why I tell people, I go, if there's and I was born and raised Pentecostal Christian, bro. So
same, buddy.
I've seen the crazy. I never did it, bro. But I remember one thing, dude, that always stuck in my mind when the dude was praying for me, bro. You know how when they would pray for people, they'd fall over like, oh, the Holy Spirit is in the house. Yes. Amen. Whatever. Cool. I think religion is a good thing. You know what I mean? If used correctly. Now, my whole thing is the hate and the hatred against other religions. Like, oh, those people are going to burn in hell because they don't. It's like, no, dude, like there's cultural differences. There's a bunch of different things. Like you guys are probably talking about the same dude, Buddha, Jesus, Krishna, Vishnu, whoever. It's all the same guy, Quetzalcoatl, whoever. It's all the same dude, just in different parts of the world. So I remember one time the dude was praying for me and he had his hand on my head and he was pushing up against my head and I kept pushing forward.
Back?
Yeah, I was pushing back, dude. He's like trying to get me to fall back. I'm like, dude, why is this dude like he's about to break my? And then until he gave up because he saw that I wasn't gonna go down, so he just moved along to the next guy. But I remember him, bro, pushing on me like, is this dude gonna fall back? I'm like, come on, dude. I played guitar I played for years at my church. I played in prisons. I played at other churches. I played concerts. I went everywhere. And I started to realize it was all bullshit when just the hypocrisy. And now looking back after all these years, dude, there's people in my church who came out as gay that were like leaders and like the congregation, all this stuff. I'm like, what? It's crazy. You know what I mean? Like that's wild to me. The church changed their name eventually or something because that denomination was marrying gays in New York, and they're like, it was the same name of the church. You know, they have like different churches, different places. Yeah. They started marrying the gays in New York, and then the people down here were freaking out. They're like, no, we're gonna change. So I was like, man, these people can't even come to terms with one simple belief, and then they expect me to just blindly follow. No, I can't. I can't do that. So how it says, this is a house of prayer and you turn it into a den of thieves. It's a brokered experience now. It is, you pay us and we might save you a seat upstairs with the man, but you have to be good, okay? Because he's always watching. Don't jerk off because he knows when you do it. So it's like, wow, this omnipotent presence. Like, dude, I grew up, bro.
Santa Claus on crack, man.
Yeah, I grew up reading the book of Revelation. I was 11 years old, 12 years old, reading the book of Revelations, bro. And then I remember my grandma telling me, when you don't repent and, when they come back for the rapture, they're going to cut your head off for those people who stayed. You got to make, I'm like, oh my God, they're going to cut my head off? Yeah, they're going to cut your head off. And all those people are going to burn forever. They're going to burn forever, and the maggots are going to eat their skin. Like this apocalyptic, I'm like, yeah. Whoa, that's crazy. I was like 11 or 12 years old, bro. Like reading about this stuff and listening to them tell me about this stuff. But I was always in school fascinated with like the weird stuff, like the aliens or the Bigfoot. Or I remember the first conspiracy in the second grade, bro, the Bermuda Triangle. I remember looking into the Bermuda Triangle. And you remember those? I don't know about how old are you, bro?
33.
I'm 20. Oh, I'm 28. So we're kind of the same thing. But there used to be these little book fairs that they would come at these schools. And I remember always asking my parents to buy like the weird books on like whatever fringe topic it was, UFOs, and it had all these pictures. And I'm like, I would always wonder what is happening. Area 51 was the big one. Like, what is happening? Area 51. Did they really have aliens in there? You know what I mean? Like, is there a portal at the Bermuda Triangle? And then when you grow up and you start learning that the Bermuda Triangle is one of the 12 vile vortices. They're all over the world. And you start learning, you go, oh my, there's more to this. There's more than meets the eye, like Transformers. And they've been telling us this shit since we were kids, bro. You know what I mean? Like since in these shows. Like I was watching Transformers with my son the other day because he thinks he's Optimus Prime. And I forgot which movie it was. It was like Dark Side of the Moon or something. And dude, it was occultic as fuck. Like the seven primes. I'm like, the seven Anunnaki? You know what I mean? Like, they were here before time existed. I go, whoa, this is crazy. You know what I mean? Like the Allspark, we don't know what it is, but it's like, it's a cube. I was like, oh shit, the cube, the cube of Saturn, like all this stuff. And you start looking around, you start connecting the dots. And
how much of that do you think is just like, these are old stories that we just retell and retell? Or do you think that they like, this is full on shit and they just put it in TV and movies? And
I think it's a bit of both. I mean, do I believe that they are trying to do some sort of like ceremony or like magical thing through the media? Absolutely. I think that they use the media for rituals, because remember, the observer effect is a real thing. So by you observing this ritual, whatever it is, what I mentioned earlier, the bandwidth, attention is a bandwidth. It's a mental type of thing. And I relate this to, the King James Version of the Bible, right? There's a lot of things that we use today that we don't know where they came from. You were talking about the Orthodox and all these other denominations. Well, the King James, very interesting character in history, where the reason that he broke off from the crown and established England and all this stuff was because they wouldn't annul his marriage. Yeah, he wanted to get away from the marriage. He probably didn't like her or whatever. So he's like, what can I do? So let me just start this whole other country. But then I don't want to use the Geneva Bible. I'm going to use my own. Okay, I'm going to make my own. Now, this is a guy who was writing about demons, witches, witchcraft, werewolves. He was talking about vampires. And in one particular, the book that he wrote, it's 3 books, Demonology. It stood out to me because I was reading it. And in the 3rd book, he talks about how the use of demons is for the further glorification of God. So if you're using demons, it's okay. It's going to glorify God at the end of the day because God rules over everything. So if you're using a demon to do whatever, he was writing about how to control demons and what to look for and all this stuff. This is the guy behind the King James Version of the Bible. Okay? This guy. Some people allegedly say that he was super anti-magic, but usually the guys that are the biggest homophobes are usually the gayest. Yeah. So when you're writing about this stuff, you know what I mean? It's like, well, I'm anti-magic because I don't want anybody else doing it, but I'm going to do it. Okay? So
that fag over there wants to suck cocks. Those yummy, yummy cocks.
How dare he? He's going to take on, I want all the cocks. So, yeah, dude, I've always said, who was it? I said one of my boys on one of the podcasts, he like cracked the gay joke at the beginning, right? Because, you're with the boys, you crack gay jokes. And then there was a comment on Rockfin, and it was like, I think the dude comments like, oh, sucking dicks. I'm off this faggot shit. And I'm like, it's like, wow, that was quick, bro. It's like, you're feeling kind of was self-conscious, bro. So could this be the answer to the missing 411 cases, people? So I think that the missing 411 they happen along concentrated cave areas. So I think it could be one of 2 things. So it could be gateways or portals, absolutely, that they step through. It could also be like hollow earth type of things where there have been cases where they talk about like entities guiding them through like these dark caves and stuff like that. The kids that go missing, as of recently, there was a kid that went missing and he was found fine. So there's these stories where kids go missing that they have no way of surviving and they survive with food in their stomachs. So it's like, was it a Bigfoot that helped him survive, or was it the pigman, or was it in Florida we had the pigman too. There's this conspiracy where it's like a failed government experiment of pig people in the Everglades. So did
you grow up watching or reading the Weekly World News? Do you remember that? With
yes, dude. I talked to somebody about that the other day.
I bought every issue of that. I wish I still had them.
Are they worth any money?
I don't know. They should be if they're not.
Yeah, I remember those.
Right?
What?
I don't think they exist anymore.
No, I think they went away a long time ago. But these, I remember reading like Goosebumps and all this stuff. Like I was into horror. Like I like the horror genre and all these things. But absolutely, I think that's an aspect of the missing 401. I think it is portals. Anything that I can't explain, dude, I always chuck it up to like interdimensional. That makes my nipples hard, bro. Like 100%. It's like, well, Bigfoot, why can't we find bodies? Interdimensional, dude.
What do you think's going on in the Bermuda Triangle? Do you think there's portals? Do you think people are disappearing? Do you think that there's like cartels doing drugs, and if you fucking go to the wrong place, they disappear your ass? Is there another Diddler Island out there, and if you go there, the government kills your ass? Or
so I think that they are portals. Now, mind you, it's a combination between ley lines, planetary alignment. There's 12 vile vortices. So for it to be happening in 12 different places, it's different anomalies in 12 different spots of the world, it's got to tell you there's different, sacred geometry is a thing, because again, if used correctly, there is, I do believe 100%, dude, I think that the world back then was like Harry Potter. And back to John Dee, the whole thing about Enochian language was he understood that, because Hebrew, the tetragrammaton is, the reality is spoken into existence. So there's 4 holy letters, and they're the ones behind, the essence of creation, pretty much. And he believed through the combination of Hebrew, Latin, and one more. I always miss it. Gabe corrected me. It was Hebrew, Latin, and one more. There's one more in there. Anyways, that he was able to pretty much manipulate reality. Now, this guy was also an alchemist, and I believe that he was able to figure it out. Now, he figured it out in 1570 something, whatever. He wrote the Monas Hieroglyphica, which, if you look into it, it's like this symbol that's meant to be used as a talisman. Now, this symbol, he said, and we don't know 100% the extent as to what it was used for, because again, it's occulted, it's a secret. It's the symbol that the Rosicrucians use, right, with the invisible college and all this stuff. And so he invented this glyph that he said that if you were able to figure it out and use this correctly, you were able to break down alchemically reality, right? You were able to alchemically break down reality to its purest form, right? So it's the symbol.
Like Nikola Tesla, everything is fucking frequency.
369.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 369. So again, there's this idea that the demiurge of this time is John Dee, that this is John Dee's reality and we're a part of it. I have another theory as to he's like the Rosicrucian Messiah, and he's like this alchemical savior. So there's this guy called Elias Artista. Now, if you Google it, you're probably not going to get anything. It's super obscure, but pretty much it hints at what Helena Blavatsky was talking about when it came to the Ascended Masters. And she also talked about the reptilian men too, by the way. In 1888, she was talking and writing about the reptilian men that would give men knowledge, right? Like the Nagas and stuff like that. Buddha was talking to Nagas as well, right? The serpent men. The Hopi tribe had the serpent clans that they would dress up as snakes and become snakes. So this reptilian idea isn't far-fetched. Like there are ancient civilizations talking about it. Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. So there are people talking. Moses, what did he do? He turned the brazen staff, the staff into a serpent. You have the brazen staff. There was a sect of the Gnostics, the Nassinians, I think it was Nassenes. I'm sorry, that they believed that the real God was the serpent in the Garden of Eden. So they revered the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Now they did a whole bunch of weird shit. So, anyways, back to this Elias Artista guy, where there's this Rosicrucian Messiah where he exists outside the fabric of space and time. Now, you have different figures throughout history. Cagliostro, you have, what's the other one? There's a bunch of different ones. You have Count Saint Germain. You have I don't know about Paracelsus, but there's one more. And anyways, there's these different figures. Even Nicolas Cage. I think this is the thing with Nicolas Cage. I'll explain here in a second, because this is why we think he's like an alchemical wizard. So when you figure out the secrets to alchemy, you will figure out the elixir of life, which either heals you or extends your life, and you're able to figure out immortality. So, and when you figure out the secrets, this figure comes and visits you to let you know that you're on the right path. Now, this figure has other people behind the scenes that work with him, right? So it's like this, I guess, like superhero, right? The 7 gods that decree, the 7 Anunnaki, you know, like these god kings and stuff like that. There's always 7. The 7 Elohim, there's always 7 for some reason. 7 days of the week, right? There's all this, the symbology behind number 7. 7 is also the Eleusinian mysteries number, right? With all these Eleusinian mysteries, schools and all this shit back then. So this idea that there's these people that live outside the fabric of space and time, almost like a Cthulhu-esque entities where like they're great old ones, right? You have H.P. Lovecraft talking about this shit. I believe that these occultists and the lizard people, when they figure out these ideas, they're able to live on forever through the mind. So we're still talking about fucking Plato. We're still talking about Aristotle, if he even lived. We're still talking about Pythagoras. These were dudes in the year 400, 500. You know, so I believe they figured something out to where they're able to, by naming things after themselves, by presenting equations to reality. The word unit, so a unit of measurement, comes from a translation, allegedly, of Monas from John Dee, the Monas Hieroglyphica. So again, how I said, we're using symbols and things that we don't fully comprehend. And by you doing that, you're furthering that magician's or that group of people's intention forward. Okay? So you're carrying their magic essentially. And that's what ceremonial magic is. Every day at the same time, every year in the same spot, you do the same thing. This energy comes through and you just swing it right back into the ether, and then it comes back the next year, and you keep doing that shit. And if enough people believe that the sky is green, the sky will turn green. Because again, and that's why they occupy our mental bandwidth with other bullshit like the Johnny Depp case and constitutional rulings and the president falling off his bike looking like a fucking idiot. They take that in order to distract you and like almost hijack that frequency in order so we're not on the same, you know, frequency or wavelength. So things don't manifest. You know what I mean? So I do. So again, so this Elias Artista guy is, I think that is like an example of these immortal alchemists, because we've always talked, you know, vampires and all this shit. I do think that back then it was like Harry Potter, bro. It's a really fucked up cosmology. And one of the things that I always think about, I have a buddy of mine who he was doing a mixture of peyote and DMT and all this crazy shit. Anyways, he was in South America somewhere, and they were high on peyote, so they took peyote for sure. And they were going on this hike, right, and in nature and all this stuff. And then they got to this one place, and they needed to snort. I forgot what it was, but I think it was like a mixture of DMT or something. They needed to snort DMT, this white powder. I don't know, it was crack or whatever, I don't know. Through the finger, a dried up mummified finger of a dead monk. Okay. So when they were all doing this ritual, okay, this ceremony. And he sniffed the thing, and he said that when he sniffed it into his nose, it felt like he says it was like I got a buckshot to the back of the skull, because it just, bah, you know what I mean? Like, damn, this is crazy. And when he started to hallucinate, he remembers he teleported to this room, right? And in this room, there were a bunch of robed figures, right? And he had this guru at one time that told him that he was about to die. It was a ayahuasquero, which is like a shaman of like the Brazilians that they do the ayahuasca. And he remembers that he was the ayahuasquero was sick, the shaman was sick, and he told me, he goes, they were talking about death and stuff like that because my friend's father had was about to die of cancer, and I guess the guy had cancer. So they're talking back and forth, and the guy's like, "Oh, I'm not afraid of death because I know where I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna go beyond or whatever." So, mind you, that shaman, he's talking to that shaman. The shaman later died, and he saw the shaman in that room that he teleported to, and the guy looked at him and made eye contact with him, almost like, "Holy shit, you're not supposed to be here. What are you doing here?" And as soon as they made eye contact, he teleported right back out. So I do think that these ceremonies that they do, and these concoctions that they make with all these hallucinogens and entheogens and all this stuff, that's why they're illegal. Because if you're able to alchemically make the right one, you're able to piece the fuck out. What do you think happened to all the ancient civilizations, bro? Like the Mayans and the Egyptians and the Aztecs, that they all pieced out. They all just left together. Mohenjo-Daro, no explanation. They're all gone. Well, did they either attune to a certain frequency where they were to piece out as a people, or what?
Dude, that's actually the conversation me and David Icke had this morning. We were talking about this, like reaching a certain frequency and that being the way to leave this prison planet, basically. It was a very Gnostic conversation we were having this morning. But yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely something to that. I want to touch back on something you said, though, which I thought was fascinating, that you think at one point in time it was like Harry Potter. That is cool as fuck, man. Was that a level of technology that people were at? Was that through technological, or that was through actual, through magic? And do you think that something ended that time of magic, or is it possible that we can get there again?
So there's a few things going on there. I think that's what, when they talk about Agartha and Shambhala and Atlantis, Tartaria maybe even, where these civilizations fell, I think that's what they're talking about. I think we're all talking about the same shit, just different names. And then we get lost in the translation. Oh, well, the earth is flat. Well, it's Tartaria. Well, it's not Tartaria. It's actually Atlantis. So it's like, well, it's not. It's the same people. Does it matter? It's history. We're not ever going to really know what it was. So I think that back then, language was more magical. Now, there's been a connection. There's been a connection that's been severed from the source, from nature or whatever it is, because we have light pollution nowadays. We have all this stuff going on. We have Wi-Fi. We have all these things going on around us. We're using technology that we don't understand 100%. So I feel that that's been done intentionally. Now, through language, and I go back to John Dee, because the Enochian language, which allegedly was the language that Enoch used to talk to God after the fall of man, after the flood, right? After his experiment went astray and the Nephilim and the fallen angels were fucking everybody, the animals and everybody, they were doing all types of stuff. So he got pissed off and he killed everybody. This was the language that Adam talked in, the Garden of Eden, right? To converse with Yahweh or whoever it was. So in that alphabet, it's interesting that there's only 21 letters. 21. Our alphabet has, 27? The original alphabet only had 19, right? So they add symbols that mean the letter X or the letter W or the V or whatever. Those are just glyphs that were just, let's just put it in here. You know what I mean? We have two words that sound the same but have different meanings. So I think language intentionally has been demystified, and they've taken the power away.
English seems like it is a magical language, but it doesn't seem like it's used for good. It's it's almost like a magical trap.
Well, I think it's been diluted is what I'm trying to get. It's been diluted because if you look at Harry Potter, they just wave their little wand around and they manifest things, whatever it is. I think it was if you look at Welsh mythology, it's very epic. Dragons, wizards, all these things that were happening back then, I think it was like that. And it's been diluted by by severing the connection to the source. So back then people would be able to look up and go, wow, that nebula looks crazy. The stars look crazy. I have a connection to the source, to the one. You know what I mean? We don't have that anymore. You can't go outside and look up and see the stars anymore. You can't, have that like sometimes you look up and it feels like you're alone, right? Like, oh, there's nothing up there. It's just a black. Oh, it's light pollution. You have frequencies. Dude, I turned off my router the other day, my Wi-Fi modem, router, whatever. I felt it when I turned it off.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, it was and I never experienced it because it's been on since I moved into the house. And when I unplugged it, I felt when it turned off. And I go, this is great. We are living in this, in these frequencies and all these things. What is this doing to it? We know cymatics affects matter. We know it affects molecules and atoms. You know what I mean? So what's it doing to us on a regular basis if it's on all the time? What's it doing to our heads? You know what I mean? Like I don't sleep next to my phone under my pillow, bro. I put that shit up to the side because, laptops are frying people's balls, bro. Laptops are literally frying people's sacks. Okay?
Cell phones, dude. They're fucking up your sperm too, dude. You carry that shit around in your pocket.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they haven't affected mine, bro. I'm still like really, I just had a kid, so.
Yeah, same. I must be doing all right.
I got those. Yeah. After all those years, right? So I think I think my sperm are doing pretty good. If anything, I'm going to buy 3 cell phones and put them on my balls. So, strap one like under my sack. So it kills, make sure it kills everything. But yeah, English is such a strange language, a Germanic language. Yeah. So if you look at all these words that we use, for example, the days of the week, Friday, Freya Day, Wednesday is, I think it's like Odin's Day or something like that. You have Thursday, Thor's Day, Saturday, Saturn's Day. So we're taking words that derive from other, like etymology. If you like start breaking things down, it's like, well, this word means this. Like, whoa, what came from this?
Yeah, dude, I get fucking mind blown whenever I hear that shit. Whenever you just had Andreas on, dude. That was fucking. Dude, every time I listen to that guy, it's another holy shit moment. Every fucking episode, dude.
Yeah, he is a human computer, dude. And I tell him, I go, dude, he'll say some crazy shit, and that's what I'm telling you. He's able to back it up, like, oh well, this says this. He's able to quote all the dates and all this stuff, and I go, I keep up as best I can, but yeah, being able to convey ideas efficiently is also another art that people, it's rhetoric. So it's the art of memory and all this stuff. And I think that's also another adding factor to these myths too. So back then, things that weren't important weren't going to be written down. So you have these epics of my God was going into the storm and on the boat and he was shooting laser beams from this pickaxe that he had or some crazy shit. That's rhetoric. That's when you're building a memory palace in order to remember it, because it's oral traditions and all these things, you need to make up a crazy story to be able to remember it. So when we have these epics, for example, Mohenjo-Daro, where in the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita, they talk about these nuclear wars between 2 cousins. Was it some actual 2 gods fight, 2 blue guys, on Vedas, fighting in the sky on these rocket ships at one point in time? Maybe. Or was it somebody telling a story to their kids or their kids or whoever or their neighbor in order for them to remember? They're like, well, they were blue and they were on spaceships and they were shooting laser beams. Are you sure? Absolutely. Write that down or remember it that way. So that guy told the next guy over and the next guy over. And when they advanced enough to write it down, they wrote it down. And that's how they remembered it. So this guy waking up 3 days later, but in 3 days he was in hell. He was fighting the devil and all this stuff. And he wakes up 3 days later and he's doing all these miracles. Like, I want the director's cut of the Bible, of the miracles that Jesus, butchered and botched. You know what I mean? Like, hey, heal me. It's like, I don't feel anything. I feel this. Get the fuck out. He's like, slaps him on the back of the head. Like, get the fuck out of here. Keep
pushing your head.
Because I talked to an eye doctor, an eye surgeon on my show. And, this whole spitting on the eye and rubbing it is like, well, if you have an abrasive medium and you have a cataract or something, by you spitting in it and, you have the lubrication and you have the dirt or whatever it is, you're scraping away the cataract. So, yeah, you were healing the blind because you were doing a surgery. You know what I mean? Like, you were doing a form of surgery on them. So show me the people that weren't that weren't healed. They don't show that, on the so I want the director's cut. And dude, when you start diving down like the Council of Nicaea, where the idea of the Holy Trinity came, where the idea of Lucifer and Satan came, it's like it's all fabricated, bro. Like it's bullshit. But the problem is that people have died over this, and people till this day are dying over it, and people will believe it till their end of days because it's been genetically ingrained in their DNA. It's been scientifically proven. This is adding to the whole demystification of the human. I had a theologian on the other day, last week, and we were talking about the next coming axial age. So where, people use tarot and all these sorts of divination, they use the Ouija board and they use all these things and they use scrying and crystals and all this stuff. He's like, those are crutches. Like, we're able to do that without needing to use these crutches. We're able to, do whatever without this stuff. So the next coming axial age is going to be like this spiritual awakening of people. And I think people are starting to realize that it's all smoke and mirrors. Like, literally, it's all smoke, like a camera obscura type thing, which John D made, right? Where they're able to present you something, a different reality. And they're able to obscure the reality and do it in a way that fits them. So they'll put you in a room with mirrors and you're not able to see yourself in the mirror. You know what I mean? Like you go, what the fuck's going on? Well, what's Truman? It's like, why hasn't Truman figured out? Because we believe the reality in which we're presented. So whatever we're presented in the media or whatever it is, people are going to believe, bro. So that's why you see that polarity of people fighting over irrelevant shit. You know what I mean? Like, I go, focus on the real stuff, focus on the people behind the scenes of what they're doing. When they're showing you the Johnny Depp case for fucking weeks on end, worry about what's happening in the background. Don't worry about, this irrelevant thing. Let's focus on what are they writing back there? I want to know. Who are they summoning this time around?
Get another comment from the homie. It says, or is it possible that we can relearn all of this and re-access it again as we have self-domesticated ourselves as a species?
I think there are ways to relearn it. Absolutely. We were talking about this the other night on some show where it's like we were talking about quantum computing and how that's so mystified and all this stuff, and how the human brain is much more powerful than a supercomputer. I mean, I have to disagree with that, because when you start thinking about too many things at once, you have a fucking meltdown. You know what I mean? So this idea that AI is not eventually going to take over and not become sentient, I think that's just, grasping at straws. I think it is eventually going to happen. But the more that we approach the singularity, the further away we get from having the ability to relearn these things, because this technology is dumbing us down. How many phone numbers do you know nowadays, bro? How many phone numbers do you memorize nowadays?
I got 4, maybe.
And back then, that's all you had, bro. Remember when you had to? I remember when I would
40, 50 in my head. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the closer we get to singularity, the further away we get from being able to relearn that. I think that's the occult knowledge, but I think that's the esoteric stuff that they don't want us to learn. And if you look at the third book of Enoch, at least the book of Enoch, where in the third one he becomes Metatron, right? He becomes this overseer of reality. After he was shown all the secrets of the universe and everything and all this stuff by the angels, I think that's what they're withholding us from. I think they're withholding us from learning these secrets in order so we don't become manifestors of our own reality and have this great power. And they hoard, but they know it. Do as I say, not as I do. Like, I'm gonna do that stuff, and I'm gonna learn the secrets in my little secret club, the Bilderberg group or the Illuminati or whoever it is. Like all the the elites, the what is it, the G7 summit. We're all part of this thing here together. Those are the people in the know.
How much do you think your co-host is holding out on you? Paranoid American.
I think sometimes, he holds out a lot. Yeah. He's not allowed to talk about a lot of things, but I don't pressure him. I go, whatever. I don't care if you're a part, or you could be, You could be a gay stripper for all I care. I don't really, people will do what they want to do. I don't practice the occult. My form of magic is focus and more mental than anything. I like the way that I forget the dude's name, Austin Osman Spar, where he pretty much, it's like this form of meditation, like almost like transcendental, where you look into the mirror, and when you space out sometimes and you start to like, just like everything starts to morph. Well, it's like when everything starts to morph, that's when you've dissolved your ego and you're able to tap into like this higher source of being. It's like, it's all mental, you know what I mean? Like it's all like a mental type of thing. And my whole thing is I try and stay positive as best I can. And that's my form of magic. That's my form of alchemy. Like treat others as you want to be treated, because essentially I'm talking to myself right now and you're talking to yourself. So we're all one. So why are we going to fight? You know what I mean? Like, just don't be a piece of shit. Just love everybody. You know what I mean? Like, just love yourself and love everybody around you.
I mean, that's honestly what I call myself, a Christ follower. So I don't really even use the term Christian anymore. I use God, or I use Jesus as someone to emulate and try to be, because I mean, Christ was awesome, man. I mean, he was
a good guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess maybe he was a pedophile according to your buddy, but
he said I called him out and I was like, dude, what? I was like, where'd you hear this guy? I'm pretty sure I heard somebody say. He's like, it's an opinion, so I can say. I go, sure, but damn, dude, you know what I mean? Like, he's backing up with Nag Hammadi library or something, you know what I mean? Like the Dead Sea Scrolls or something. Like, give me something, dude.
Mary Magdalene was in her 30s. She seemed haggard. I don't know. Did he marry her? No.
Yeah, Mary Mag. That's what he's like, oh, Jesus' wife. And I go, Mary Magdalene? He's like, no, it was somebody else. I go, somebody else? Like, whatever, dude. Like, I was like, give me a source, bro. What Wikipedia page are you reading that off of? Because that sounds like some fake news shit right there. Which, again, that's why I said I like to be as conspiratorial as I can, but in a scholarly type of way. So if I'm doing like a research heavy topic, I like to get different points of views. I don't just stick to one biography of so-and-so, because you can tell in that biography the tone or the leaning of, where like this guy liked this guy or this guy didn't. So what's he going to omit? Or when he states a topic, like, whole plan's like, well, allegedly he said that he did this, it's like, well, he's already planting that seed of doubt in you. So how is that going to transform the way that you look at that person or whatever it is? So I like to, if I'm reading about John D, for example, right now I'm doing like a deep dive on John D so I can record an episode. I'm reading, the very first biography, this other piece, this, like reading different points of views, because I want to learn, not from just one-sided. I want to learn from various points of views.
Fucking A, brother. Well, we're getting close to your heart out, buddy. I really appreciate you. This was fucking fun. We got to do this again. Dude, you're the Mexican. I'm going to call you the Mexican Andres Gutierrez, but I know you're Puerto Rican. I'm fucking with you.
Yeah, the Puerto Rican Exertus. Yeah, don't call me that. Call me something else. I don't want to be Exertus. He's his own person. I respect Exertus, and yeah, dude, just anybody's able to tap into that knowledge. I've had people write to me like, "Oh, what book should I read? What book is gonna all the things?" I go, "Well, there's not one size fits all, but start with the Secret Teachings of All Ages if you want to really start somewhere, and go from there and start looking into all the different ancient religions." And I always tell people, learn about the shit that you find interesting. Like, don't try to emulate anybody else. Don't try to copy anybody else. Just, if you like aliens, if you like Bigfoot, then we talk about Bigfoot, bro. If you like Bigfoot,
that'll be another episode.
Talk about fucking Bigfoot, dude. You know what I mean? Like, talk about him and look into that, and then look at the other versions of Bigfoot. Like, oh, the Yeti or the skunk ape and all this stuff. Like, oh, fuck. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. So, yeah, I think anybody's able to look into this stuff and make your own connections. A lot of the stuff that I talk about, I've made connections myself, because everything is subjective, right? So you can interpret things how you want to, see them, but that's also important to be able to back it up with where you got that information from. Like, if you're gonna talk about how I said that comment, the comments like, It's like leaves a bad taste in your mouth because like I don't know about all that. Because he also said that Manly P Hall was fucking kids too, and I go, well, where'd you hear that? Because Artie was a tranny, so that's why there's different variations as to origin stories and all this stuff. So that was a rumor of the time. You know what I mean? That he was a hermaphrodite. But that's all it is. It's a rumor. There is no evidence to it. So you take that with a grain of salt, but don't go out, state that before you say it on a podcast that X amount of people listen to. You know what I mean? Before you start, somebody else is going to repeat that. And then that's how you get another conspiracy, bro.
Well, thanks, man. Do you want to do your plugs one more time? Tell people where to find you?
Yeah, at the Juan Podcast, the101podcast.com. You find me on there. Anywhere you listen to a podcast, really, dude. YouTube, all that stuff. Rockfin. I got a Patreon, patreon.com/the101podcast. And also, one of my endeavors right now is a comic book series. The first issue's coming out here in a couple of weeks. It's already done. We're just waiting to pull the trigger. We're just like organizing everything. The Chosen Juan versus the Saturnian Cube, and it's going to be a comic book series with a bunch of people in it. It's going to have Alex Stein in it. Sam Tripoli's in it. We have Mark from My Family Thinks I'm Crazy. Gordo from Those Conspiracy Guys. Isaac Weishaupt. We have Tony Merkel in there. We have a bunch of different characters in there of real podcasters that are going to join me in different realms. They're going to be Hollow Earth. There's going to be Tartantia, which is our spin on Tartaria. So you can imagine what that's going to be like. We're going to, figure out if the moon landing was faked or not. We're going to talk about Inaki and magic and all this stuff in the comic book. So it's going to be it's a series based around fighting the Demiurge. So the first issue's coming out. We have a Kickstarter. You can check that out on my Instagram. And that's pretty much it. Check that out. And ParanoidAmerican.com as well too. Paranoid American Comics is publishing that. So I appreciate you inviting me on, dude. I had a lot of fun. We gotta do this again.
Sounds good, brother. Thanks a lot.
Sure.